The first 1,000 days.
Why your child's brain is built right now. You've probably felt it. That quiet moment when you're playing with your baby or reading to your toddler at bedtime, and a question suddenly appears in your mind. Am I doing enough? Here's something most parents don't know. In the first years of life, your baby's brain forms 1 million new neural connections every single second. Every second. And the habits you repeat every day are literally wiring those connections. Not the big moments, not the expensive toys, not the special classes. The small things that happen again and again. Because right now, in these ordinary daily moments, your child's brain is doing something extraordinary. It is building itself. And the habits you create today are the blueprints it is using. In this video, I'm going to show you why the window you are in right now is one of the most important in your child's life. What is actually happening inside that rapidly developing brain, and why simple daily habits matter far more than most parents realize. And later in this series, I'll also show you one simple daily habit that research shows can significantly accelerate early language development, something many parents already do without realizing how powerful it is. But first, let's look at what is actually happening inside the brain.
Let's start with a number.
1 million. That is how many new neural connections your baby's brain forms every second in the first years of life. Every second. Not during a special learning activity, not only when you're doing something educational, just during everyday life. Dr. Megan Puglia, a neurology researcher at the University of Virginia, describes the first 1,000 days as a period when the brain builds itself at a breathtaking pace. The first 1,000 days. It sounds like a long time, but count it out. Day 1 starts at conception. Day 1,000 is your child's third birthday. Just 3 years. Research from the University of Minnesota's Masonic Institute for the Developing Brain shows that around 80% of a child's brain development happens during this window. 80%. Before school, before reading, before they can even clearly explain what they want for breakfast. And here's what that means for parents. The habits you build right now are not just filling time, they are wiring the brain. To understand why habits matter so much, we need to look at what is happening inside your baby's brain. At birth, your baby already has almost all the neurons they will ever have, about 100 billion of them. But there is something important missing. Those neurons are mostly unconnected. Think of them like light bulbs in an empty room. The bulbs are there, but the wiring has not been installed yet. Experience is the wiring. Every time your baby hears your voice, feels your touch, sees your face, or responds to something in the world around them, a neural connection forms. And connections that are used again and again become stronger. Connections that are rarely used slowly disappear. This process is called synaptic pruning. The brain becomes more efficient by keeping the connections it uses and letting go of the ones it doesn't. Which means something important for parents. Repetition is not boring. Repetition is how the brain builds a highway. And daily habits are the most repeated experiences in a child's life. Things that seem small, talking during diaper changes, making eye contact during feeding, describing what you're doing while cooking dinner, are exactly the experiences the brain uses to wire itself. In 2015, researchers published a study in the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry that looked at something scientists had rarely measured before. They asked a simple question. Does the quality of everyday interaction between a parent and a baby actually change the physical structure of the brain? Not test scores, not language milestones, the brain itself. What they found was striking. Babies whose mothers were more sensitive and responsive in everyday interactions showed larger subcortical gray matter volumes. In simple terms, the way you respond to your baby each day can influence how parts of their brain grow. Not genes alone, not fate. Daily interaction. This is not pressure, this is possibility.
Parents often ask questions like,
Should I enroll my child in a brain development class? Do I need special learning toys? Is there a program I should be following? But decades of research show something surprisingly simple. No program replaces consistent daily interaction. Researchers at the Harvard Center on the Developing Child have spent years studying what actually builds healthy brain architecture in early childhood. Their conclusion is clear. The most powerful driver of early brain development is something called serve and return interaction. This means the simple back and forth between a child and a caring adult. Your baby babbles, you respond. Your toddler points. You look and name what they see. A smile, a sound, a word, a response. Back and forth. These small exchanges build the brain's communication networks. Not flashcards, not educational videos, not the so-called Mozart effect. You. Talking, responding, playing, and connecting. And there is more good news. You do not have to do this perfectly. Your baby does not need a perfectly scheduled life. They need a responsive one. At this point, many parents feel a familiar worry. My baby is already 18 months old. Did I miss something? I didn't know this when they were newborns. Here is the reassuring truth. No, you didn't miss your chance. The first 1,000 days are a window of extraordinary opportunity. But they are not a deadline. The brain remains capable of change throughout life. What makes this window special is simply that learning happens faster and more easily during this period. Patterns form quickly, connections grow rapidly. So, if you are in this stage now, it is a powerful opportunity. And starting today still matters. In the next 5 videos, we are going to turn this science into a practical daily framework you can actually use. We will cover the morning habits that prime a young brain for learning before 9 a.m., the everyday patterns that can quietly harm development, the single most researched habit for language and brain growth, the bedtime routine that strengthens memories while your child sleeps, and finally, a complete daily rhythm you can follow from morning to night. Each video stands on its own, but together they show how simple daily routines can support healthy brain development. So, let's start where every day begins, the morning. In the next video, I'll show you 5 simple morning habits that help wire your baby's brain for learning before 9 a.m. And most parents are already doing 2 of them without realizing it. Let's start with the morning.
Most parents think mornings are survival mode. Get the baby up, feed them, get through the next hour. And that makes sense. Mornings with a baby or toddler can feel chaotic, even stressful. But here's what most parents don't realize. The first 60 to 90 minutes after your child wakes up are some of the most neurologically rich moments of the day. The brain is freshly rested. Cortisol rises naturally, not dangerously, but just enough, priming the brain for alertness, attention, and learning. What happens in these first minutes sets the tone for the whole day. Today, I'm going to show you 5 morning habits that directly support your baby's or toddler's brain development. No fancy equipment, no extra hours, just small shifts in the way you already do things. Habit 1. The greeting. Before anything else, There's a moment. You walk into the room. Your baby sees you. What happens next matters more than you might think. Harvard calls these interactions serve and return, the foundation of early brain architecture. Serve and return is exactly what it sounds like. Your baby makes a sound. You respond. Your baby reaches. You lean in. Your baby makes eye contact. You return it. It's not just cute. It's neurological construction. Imagine walking in. The baby squeals, stretches a tiny hand, and gazes up at you. You pause, smile, respond. Then the baby giggles and babbles back. That 10 to 15-second exchange strengthens circuits for language, emotional regulation, and social skills. You might repeat this greeting later with a toy or gesture. Every small exchange builds a pathway that your child's future learning depends on. Even a 30-second greeting can influence language and emotional networks more than a 10-minute story session later in the day. How to do it well. Walk in calmly and warmly. Make eye contact. Smile before speaking. Say their name. Pause to let them respond. Even tiny babbles or smiles are enough to strengthen empathy, attention, and curiosity. Habit 2. Narrate the morning. From the first step, your voice is a brain-building tool. Talk your baby through the routine. Okay, diaper time, snap, snap, snap. Now we're getting dressed. Which arm first? Look, the sun is coming through the window. Can you see it? This is parentese, child-directed speech. Research tracking 42 families found that children in highly verbal households had heard 30 million more words by age 3 than children in less verbal homes, predicting stronger language skills, reading readiness, and academic success. It's not just how many words, but the quality of the back-and-forth interaction that matters. Imagine two parents getting ready. Parent 1 rushes through instructions. Hurry up, let's go brush teeth. Baby looks away, overwhelmed. Parent 2 narrates with details and warmth. Now brush your teeth. See the bubbles? Up and down. Baby engages, babbles back. The second approach strengthens attention, language pathways, and emotional regulation. Habit 3. Get outside early. One of the most overlooked habits isn't talking or playing. It's light. Morning sunlight stimulates the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's central clock, which coordinates the body's circadian rhythm. This rhythm regulates sleep, hormone release, metabolism, alertness, and emotional tone. For babies, regular exposure to morning light anchors sleep-wake cycles, helping them settle in the evening, boosts daytime alertness and curiosity, improves emotional regulation, strengthens neural readiness for learning throughout the day. Even brief exposure to morning sunlight triggers the release of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that boosts mood and primes the brain for attention and exploration. A short 10-minute light exposure can make your baby more curious, more engaged, and calmer for several hours. Skipping morning light can subtly affect mood and alertness. Babies may take longer to settle, nap inconsistently, or feel more irritable. Over weeks, irregular light exposure can delay the brain's internal clock, affecting sleep cycles and hormonal rhythms crucial for learning and attention. If it's cloudy, overcast, or winter, sit by a bright window for 10 minutes while you play or feed. Use a full-spectrum light lamp to mimic sunlight. Step onto a porch or balcony for a few minutes. Even indirect natural light helps. You don't need a long walk. Just consistent moments of daylight to set the brain's internal clock and charge the system for the day. Habit 4. Move their body. Movement is brain building, not just energy burning. Reaching, rolling, stretching, crawling. These actions provide proprioceptive input, signals about body position and motion, which activate the cerebellum and sensory cortex, supporting attention, coordination, and later, more complex learning. A few minutes of tummy time in the morning strengthen neural pathways that your baby will rely on for crawling, walking, problem-solving, and even language later. Tips for movement. Infants under 12 months. Gentle tummy time and rolling games. Toddlers. Free movement before structured activities. Soft climbing, crawling tunnels, gentle obstacle paths. Avoid prolonged time in bouncers or in front of screens. Their brains are asking for sensory and movement input. Habit 5. The feeding conversation. Whether breastfeeding, bottle, or breakfast, feeding is a prime brain-building window, far beyond just nutrition. When you engage attentively with your child during feeding, maintaining gentle eye contact, responding to sounds, narrating what you see and feel, you are doing more than talking. You are strengthening neural networks that support social communication, emotional regulation, reward learning circuits linked to curiosity and exploration. One study in developmental psychology found that infants whose caregivers engaged in frequent, face-to-face responsive interactions, especially during feeding, developed stronger executive function skills later in childhood, including better attention control and cognitive flexibility. What's happening in the brain? The prefrontal cortex is stimulated, supporting attention and self-control. Mirror neuron networks help infants learn social response patterns. The limbic system builds emotional security and reduces stress reactivity. These coordinated activations literally wire the brain to associate relational attunement with safety, curiosity, and cognitive engagement. So rather than letting feeding become a background task while you check your phone, consider it a daily microtherapy session for your baby's developing brain. A few extra moments of eye contact, narrative language, or shared attention on a spoon, a color, or a texture are far more than nice to have. They are neurologically transformative. Examples. You're looking at the window. That's the morning light. What color is your cereal? Can you taste it? That spoon is silver. See how it shines? Even brief, focused interactions during feeding have long-lasting effects on attention, learning, and emotional regulation. Putting it together. Some mornings you may do 2 habits, others just 1. That's okay. Brain development isn't built on perfection, it's built on consistency. Even 3 out of 5 habits most mornings creates a neurologically rich environment over hundreds of days. Remember this simple framework. 1. Greet warmly and pause. 2. Narrate the routine. 3. Get natural light. 4. Let them move freely. 5. Be fully present during feeding. 5 habits. No extra equipment. No extra time. Just small shifts in hours you already spend with your child. What's next? Now that you know what to build in the morning, the next video shows what not to do. 4 everyday habits quietly slow your toddler's brain development. Many of them are things almost every parent does. It's just as important to avoid harmful routines as it is to build positive ones. We also created a book and practical worksheets for this series, digital or print. Check the link below.
Nobody sets out to harm their child's development. Every parent watching this video loves their child deeply. Every habit I'm about to describe is extremely common, and that's exactly why this video matters. The 4 patterns we're going to look at today don't look harmful. They feel normal. They're things almost every family does, at least sometimes. But research is clear. When these patterns become daily habits in the first 3 years, they can quietly interfere with the brain development we talked about in the first 2 videos. I'll show you what the science says and exactly what to replace each habit with. No guilt, just information. Habit 1. Background screen noise. Here's a scene most parents recognize. The TV is on. You're not really watching it. Your toddler is playing nearby. It feels harmless. Even when your child isn't looking at the screen, their brain is noticing more than you think. Research tells a different story. A study published in Pediatrics tracked families and found that children under 3 are exposed to nearly 4 hours of background TV per day. Even when they aren't actively watching, background TV reduces the length and quality of parent-child interactions. Parents speak less, initiate fewer play interactions, and their words are simpler and shorter. Remember, the back-and-forth conversation between parent and child is the single most important driver of early language and brain development. Background TV doesn't just compete for attention, it reduces the very interactions that build the brain. A 2023 Boston Children's Hospital study in JAMA Pediatrics followed over 400 children from infancy to age 9. Higher screen exposure in the first year was linked to measurable changes in brain activity at 18 months and difficulties with executive function, focus, impulse control, and emotion regulation at school age. Simple fix. If no one is watching it, turn it off. The silence you replace it with is not empty. It's space for real conversation to happen. Habit 2. Responding to stress with stress. This one is hard. It's a completely human reaction. Your child melts down, you're exhausted. You raise your voice, rush them, or match their panic. Every parent does this, even the best. What feels like a natural response can actually shape the hippocampus, a key brain region, if done repeatedly. Neuroscience shows that small doses of cortisol, the stress hormone, are helpful. But frequent, prolonged, or unresolved stress without co-regulation is toxic stress. Harvard researchers show toxic stress suppresses neurogenesis, inhibits synaptic connections, and damages the hippocampus. A study in Scientific Reports found that children with higher cumulative cortisol had smaller hippocampal volumes as early as age 6. This isn't about eliminating stress, it's about co-regulation. When a child is distressed and a calm adult stays present, breathe slowly, and speak softly, the child's nervous system borrows that calm. Even a single slow breath before responding can reduce stress and help your child's brain develop better self-regulation. Habit 3. Skipping unstructured play. Modern parenting often prioritizes structured activity, classes, educational apps, organized playdates, flashcards. All of these have value, but many families have quietly removed something irreplaceable: free, unstructured, child-led play. Research consistently shows that free play is critical for executive function, working memory, flexible thinking, and impulse control. These skills predict school success more reliably than early academics. During free play, children set and follow their own goals, create rules and manage when they break down, handle frustration and find new approaches, and develop narrative thinking through imaginative scenarios. Structured activities can't replace this. The brain has to make the choices itself. Practical tip: every day, create a block of time with no app, no flashcard, no organized game. Just your child, some open-ended materials, and space to explore. Cardboard boxes, building blocks, a few kitchen spoons. Boredom is not the enemy. It's often the beginning of brain growth. Habit 4. Rushing transitions. This happens dozens of times a day. We rush. Come on, we're late. Stop playing, time to go. 1 more minute and then shoes on. From a toddler's perspective, abrupt transitions are neurological events. Cognitive flexibility, shifting from one activity to another, is one of the last prefrontal skills to mature. Rushed transitions can trigger stress responses that temporarily shut down the very brain region you're trying to develop. Practical fix. Build transition time into your plan. In 5 minutes, we'll put toys away. 2 more minutes, then shoes on. 1 more go on the slide, then we walk to the car. This isn't giving in, it supports the neurological reality of a developing brain. The honest truth. Some days TV stays on too long. Some days you rush transitions. Some days you match your child's dysregulation. That is not failure. That is being human. Research calls the good enough parent someone who gets it right around 30% of the time and repairs when they don't. Repair is itself a brain-building experience. It teaches children that relationships survive rupture, mistakes can be acknowledged, and safety returns. These are some of the most important lessons a developing brain can learn. What's coming next? Now that you know what builds the brain and what holds it back, the next video reveals the single most researched habit for brain growth. It is not a program. It is not a toy. It costs nothing. And yet, the neuroscience behind it is more compelling than almost anything else in early childhood research, and it can be done in just a few minutes a day. Watch it now. We also created a book and practical worksheets for this series, digital or print. Check the link below. There is one habit researchers have studied more than almost any other in the first 3 years of life. It doesn't require equipment. It doesn't require special training. It works in any home, in any language, in any culture. And the science is striking. Children who experience high levels of this habit show measurably stronger brain development in language, social, and executive function regions, advantages that persist into school and beyond. The habit is conversation. Not instruction, not teaching, not educational content, conversation. And more specifically, the back-and-forth quality of that conversation is what makes the difference. Even a few minutes of responsive back-and-forth each day can produce measurable changes in toddlers' brains, more than hours of passive listening. Today, we'll explore why, what the brain scans reveal, and exactly how to make conversation a natural part of your day. You may have heard of the 30 million word gap. In the 1990s, researchers Betty Hart and Todd Risley recorded every word spoken in 42 families with young children over 2.5 years. By age 3, children in the most verbally rich homes had heard roughly 30 million more words than children in the least verbal homes. This predicted language development, IQ, and academic performance for years. But the next wave of research revealed it's not just the number of words that matters. A 2019 MIT-Harvard study using brain imaging compared 2 groups. First, children who heard many words in a one-way style, parents speaking at them, narrating, reading. Second, children who heard the same number of words, but in back-and-forth conversation. Parent speaks, child responds, parent responds again. Brain scans showed that children in the conversational group had significantly greater activation in Broca's area, the key language processing region. Even 2 children who hear the same number of words develop very different brains depending on the quality of interaction. When your baby babbles and you respond, 2 things happen simultaneously. First, your baby receives sound input, language, tone, intonation. Second, their brain processes contingency. I did something, something happened, my action caused a response. This contingency is neurologically powerful. It activates social brain circuits, teaches agency, and strengthens pathways underlying executive function, such as working memory, attention control, and problem solving. Passive language, from a screen, audiobook, or background radio, does not activate these circuits. Even more, tablet or smartphone watching can limit opportunities for real interaction. When children spend time passively watching, they miss the subtle eye contact, facial cues, gestures, and pauses that the brain uses to develop social understanding and language skills. Studies show that toddlers who spend more than 30 to 60 minutes a day on screens may have slower vocabulary growth, reduced attention span, and fewer spontaneous back-and-forth interactions with caregivers. Even a short pause before responding is critical. The brain can tell the difference between real interaction and passive listening. Let's look at some real-world examples. Baby stage. Your baby babbles during breakfast. You repeat the sounds and pause. The baby looks at you. You hold eye contact and say, "Ah, you saw the spoon. What do you want to do?" During nappy changes, baby kicks legs. You mirror the movement, smile, and say, "Yes, legs kicking. So strong." Morning play. Baby reaches for blocks. You reach too. Say, "Let's stack together." Pause and watch their response. Each of these moments strengthens language, social, and motor circuits. Toddler stage. Your toddler stacks blocks. You ask, "What happens if we add one more block?" Your child responds. You both laugh. During snack time, toddler reaches for fruit. You narrate, "You picked the apple. What color is it? Can you bite it?" Walk to the park. Toddler points to a dog. You respond, "Yes, that's a brown dog. What do you think it's doing?" Even short, repeated interactions like these have measurable impacts on brain growth. Words aren't the only tool. Nonverbal cues extend conversation naturally and strengthen learning even before the child can speak. Eye contact and facial expressions. Meeting your child's eyes and smiling teaches attention, emotional recognition, and social connection. Gestures and pointing. Pointing at objects, waving, giving high fives. These are tiny conversations. Movement and body language. Babies notice posture, tone, and movement. Leaning in, nodding, or bouncing with their rhythm signals, "I'm paying attention." Mimicking and mirroring. Repeat sounds, copy gestures, mirror expressions. Playful nonverbal storytelling. Use gestures, toys, and expressions to tell a story silently and let the child respond. There's an important difference between talking and teaching. Too much explicit teaching can reduce conversational richness. For example, "This is a red ball. Can you say red?" Good. "What color is this?" Better. "You're holding the ball. It's round, isn't it? What do you want to do with it?" 3 rules for rich conversation. Comment, don't quiz. Describe, don't test. Follow the child's interest. The goal is to make conversation the default in daily life. Narrate routine activities, diaper changes, getting dressed. Follow the child's lead. Pause and wait for responses. Use gestures, facial expressions, and eye contact. Keep it playful and child-led. Even 10 to 15 minutes scattered across the day can dramatically strengthen brain pathways. Now, some common mistakes. Speaking too quickly or over-explaining. Not pausing for the child to respond. Being distracted by screens. The correction is simple. Slow down, smile, mirror, pause. Even brief attention builds circuits. Take a moment to really notice what your child is doing or trying to communicate. Follow their gaze, match their expressions, or repeat their sounds before adding your own words. These small, mindful moments teach the brain how conversation works, how cause and effect feels, and how social cues create connection, all without needing long explanations or formal teaching. Notice your toddler's expressions, laughter, pointing, or repeated sounds. Each micro-response is your child's brain practicing attention, cause-effect, and social reciprocity. We've covered morning habits in video 2, habits that hold the brain back in video 3, and the most powerful daily habit, conversation, in this video. Next video, bedtime routines. Even a 10-minute bedtime routine can improve memory, learning, and emotional regulation. No special equipment required.
Most parents think of sleep as the end of the day. The goal is to get the child down, survive the bedtime battle, and finally have a moment of quiet. That's completely understandable. But what neuroscience has discovered about sleep might permanently change how you see those last 30 minutes of the day. Because your child's brain does not go offline when they fall asleep. It goes to work. Every experience your child had during the day, every word, touch, gesture, and interaction is processed, consolidated, and wired into long-term memory during sleep. And the hours just before sleep are the ones that feed this process most directly. Even 20 minutes of a pre-sleep routine can dramatically affect memory, attention, and emotional regulation the next day. Today, I'll show you what actually happens in a baby or toddler's brain during sleep. Why a consistent bedtime routine is more than a calming strategy. The specific evening habits that set the brain up for overnight learning. How small, mindful adjustments can compound into lifelong cognitive benefits. What happens in a sleeping brain? Sleep is divided into cycles. Within those cycles, there's slow-wave sleep, also called deep sleep. During slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus, the brain's short-term memory storage, replays the day's experiences. Experiences are transferred to the neocortex for long-term storage. Superfluous connections are pruned, making room for important networks. The brain is refreshed for the next day. Think of it as the brain's overnight filing system. For babies and toddlers, this process is even more critical than for adults. A landmark study in PNAS by the University of Sheffield followed 216 babies aged 6 to 12 months. All babies learned a new skill, removing a mitten from a puppet. Half napped, half stayed awake. Results: only babies who slept retained the skill. Dr. Jane Herbert noted, "The optimal time for infants to learn may actually be just before sleep, not when they are most alert." This changes bedtime entirely. The last 30 minutes of the day may be the most neurologically valuable. Why routine is brain medicine? A consistent bedtime routine does more than make sleep easier. Research shows that predictable routines in early childhood are linked to longer sleep duration, fewer night wakings, better emotional regulation, stronger cognitive development. Why it works? Predictability signals safety. When your child's body recognizes a sequence that reliably precedes sleep, melatonin rises. The nervous system downshifts. The brain transitions from processing to consolidation mode. A bath, story, and song in the same order every night is not just calming. It's a neurological cue that tells the brain, this is the end of the day. Safe to consolidate learning. Even small rituals like giving your child a soft toy to hold, or dimming lights gradually over 5 minutes, add consistency and safety signals that help the nervous system settle. The 4 evening habits. Habit 1. Reduce stimulation 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Screens off. Active play winds down. Lights dim. Even a short period of reduced light and calm before bed can improve slow-wave sleep by up to 30%. Blue light suppresses melatonin and delays deep sleep. Practical tip: swap TV time for quiet sensory play, like stacking blocks or simple puzzles. Even reading aloud in a dim room helps. Habit 2. Warm water. A warm bath signals the body it's time to sleep. Slight drop in temperature signals the brain. Activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Reduces cortisol. For a developing brain, this transition from activation to calm sets the stage for deep, restorative sleep. Mini example: let your baby splash lightly, or pat water with hands. Playful but low stimulation, reinforcing the wind down. Parents can comment on sensations, for example, the water feels warm on your toes, adding extra language input just before sleep. Habit 3. Read a story. Reading aloud before bed is highly effective, provides language input in a calm context, builds vocabulary and narrative comprehension, creates serve and return interactions, gives the sleeping brain material to process and consolidate. Remember the Sheffield study. Information learned just before sleep is retained best. Even a short story can improve memory retention and language development overnight. Mini tip: ask questions during reading. Pause for responses. Even nonverbal cues count. You see the dog? What is he doing? Baby babbles, points, gestures. Habit 4. Skin contact and calm voice. The final minutes before sleep are crucial. Gentle touch releases oxytocin. Soft, slow voice reassures the nervous system. Phrases like, "Good night, I love you," signal safety. Mini example: rock your toddler gently. Repeat a comforting rhyme, pause and smile, then lay them down. Adding a small, repetitive cue, like patting a blanket or singing a short melody, reinforces consistency and signals time to sleep. This is not just sentimental. It tells the brain, the day is complete, you are safe, time to rest and grow. What happens overnight? A 2020 study in Nature Communications at Max Planck Institute showed babies aged 14 to 17 months learned new word-object pairings. After sleep, babies didn't just remember, they encoded rich episodic memories. Babies who stayed awake didn't form these precise memories. Sleep isn't just consolidating, it's completing learning. Every conversation, word, and serve and return interaction during the day becomes permanent architecture in the brain. This is why the last half hour before sleep can be more powerful than an hour of daytime teaching. Common mistakes and corrections: skipping wind-down time, using screens before bed, rushing the routine, ignoring nonverbal cues. Correction: slow down, smile, mirror, pause. Even brief attention builds circuits. Add context. Gently name what your child did that day, hum a favorite tune, or repeat a word they said. These small, deliberate moments help cement learning, reinforce social-emotional skills, and cue the brain that sleep is safe and predictable. Pausing to notice subtle behaviors, like a yawn, stretching, or closing eyes, teaches children to attune to bodily and emotional cues, further supporting self-regulation. Mini-fall example: your 15-month-old resists bedtime. You turn off the TV, dim the lights, and give a warm bath. You read a short story and pause for reactions. Gentle rocking, soft humming, and eye contact finish the routine. Result: baby falls asleep calmly, retains newly learned words and skills, and shows better mood and attention the next day. Even 5 minutes of mindful, consistent routine each evening makes a measurable difference. What's coming next? You now have the full picture, from morning to night. The final video completes the series. A complete daily routine from waking to sleep. Think of it as a practical reference guide you can save and reuse. The last video will show how small tweaks across the day compound into enormous gains for your child's brain. Watch it now. You've made it to the final video in this series. And I want to start by saying something important. The fact that you're here, that you watched, that you listened, that you kept asking how to do better, that already matters. Because that is exactly what your child's brain needs most. Not a perfect parent, a present one. In this final video, I'm not going to repeat the science. I'm going to show you how everything fits together into a single day. A complete, realistic rhythm. From the moment your child wakes up to the moment they fall asleep. Think of this as your reference guide. Something you can come back to, save, share with a partner. Not a rigid schedule, a living framework. Because the brain isn't built by any one habit. It's built by the accumulation of small moments across the whole day. Let's walk through it. Morning. Waking and the first hour. Every day begins with a greeting. You walk in. Your baby sees your face. You make eye contact. You smile. You say their name. And you wait. That 10-second exchange, a squeal, a smile, a response, is serve and return. A neural connection forming in real time. So before anything else, walk in warmly, make eye contact before you speak, and let them respond. Then narrate the morning as it unfolds. Okay, left arm first. Now the right. There you are. The banana is soft today. Can you feel it? Look, the window is all foggy this morning. You're not teaching, you're describing. And that warm, responsive back and forth is one of the strongest predictors of language, attention, and cognitive development we have. And if you can, get outside. Even 10 minutes of morning light sets the brain's internal clock, boosts serotonin, and helps your child nap and sleep better that night. Morning light is a small habit with a long reach. Mid-morning, play and movement. After the morning routine, unstructured play. Not a class, not a screen, just your child. Some open-ended materials, and space. This is where executive function is built. The ability to set goals, manage frustration, shift thinking. These skills predict school success more reliably than early academics, and they can only develop when the child is the one making the choices. Your role here is mostly to stay present without directing. Watch. Comment occasionally. You're stacking them higher. What do you think will happen? Then, let them find out. And let them move. Tummy time, crawling, climbing. The motor system and the brain are wiring themselves together. Movement is not an obstacle to learning. For babies and toddlers, it is learning. Midday, transitions, and the nap. Here's a moment most parents don't think about. The transition. Moving from play to lunch, from lunch to nap. You're asking a toddler's brain to do something genuinely difficult. Cognitive flexibility is one of the last prefrontal skills to mature. Rush it, and you trigger a stress response that temporarily shuts down the very region you're trying to develop. So, give it a little time. In 5 minutes, we'll put the blocks away. 2 more minutes, then lunch. 1 more trip down the slide. These aren't concessions. They're supports for a brain that's still learning to shift gears. And then, the nap. The brain doesn't go offline. It goes to work. Every word, every game, every back and forth from this morning is being processed and transferred into long-term memory right now. The nap is not a break from development. It is development. Afternoon, connection and conversation. After the nap, the brain is refreshed and ready. This is your best window for conversation. And we know from the MIT and Harvard brain imaging research that 2 children can hear the same number of words in a day and still develop very differently, depending on whether those words were part of a real back and forth or just background noise. So, make conversation the default, at the park, in the kitchen, at the grocery store. What do you think that dog is looking at? You picked the red one. How does it feel? See how the carrots fall when I cut them? You don't need a special activity. You need presence. Comment instead of quiz. Describe instead of test. Follow instead of lead. Evening, winding down. About 30 to 45 minutes before bed, start reducing stimulation. Screens off. Active play winds down. Lights dim. This protects melatonin. And melatonin protects deep sleep. Deep sleep is when the hippocampus replays the day and transfers experiences into long-term memory. Disrupt that, and the learning from the whole day consolidates less effectively. A warm bath helps. The slight drop in body temperature that follows signals the brain to shift from activation to rest. Cortisol drops. The nervous system downshifts. 10 minutes. Every night. Simple biology. Bedtime. The last 20 minutes. The last 20 to 30 minutes before sleep may be the most neurologically valuable part of the day. The University of Sheffield research showed it clearly. Babies who learned something just before sleeping retained it. Babies who stayed awake after learning the same thing did not. The brain encodes what happens just before sleep with particular precision. So those last minutes deserve care. Read a story, not as a box to check, but as a real, warm exchange. Pause for their reactions. Follow their pointing finger. Wait for the babble, the gesture, the wide-eyed look. Then, gentle touch, a soft voice, a familiar phrase. Good night. I love you. You are safe. That's the brain's final message to itself before sleep. The day is complete. I am safe. Time to grow. One honest look at the whole day. Here it is in one breath. A warm greeting. Narrated mornings. Morning light. Free movement and unstructured play. Slow transitions. A restorative nap. Afternoon conversation. A calm evening wind down. A bath. A story. Gentle touch. Sleep. That's it. Not a program, not a curriculum, just a rhythm, repeated across hundreds of ordinary days that gives a developing brain exactly what it needs. The honest reality. Some days you'll do most of this, some days almost none. You'll be tired, you'll be rushing. The TV will stay on too long and bedtime won't go as planned. That is not failure. That is being human. Research tells us that parents don't need to get it right every time. Around 30% is genuinely enough, as long as repair happens when it doesn't. And repair is itself a brain-building experience. When you come back after a hard moment and say, I was rushed earlier. I'm sorry. Let's read together now. Your child's brain learns something that no flashcard can teach. Relationships survive difficulty. Safety returns. I am not defined by the hard moments. Those are some of the most important lessons a developing brain can ever receive. A final word. I want to end with one question. What is one thing from this series you want to bring more of into your days? Just one. Maybe it's a slower morning greeting. Maybe it's putting the phone down during feeding. Maybe it's 10 minutes of free play each afternoon. Maybe it's a quieter, more consistent bedtime. Start there. Not with all 6 habits. Not with a perfect schedule. Just one small, consistent shift. Because this is what the neuroscience ultimately tells us, small things, done consistently, across hundreds of ordinary days, build extraordinary brains. And you are already doing more than you know. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to ask the questions. Your child will never know how much thought you put into the ordinary moments of their earliest years. They won't know, but their brain will. End of series.